Week 8, when two of the league's best teams forgot how to football. Down goes KC. Down goes SF. Here come the Bengals. Here come the Jets. Also, Game 3 of the World Series. Would you rather be throwing a Hall of Famer or a rookie? Let's go around the horn.
Excellent question.
We start with Joe Burrow going streaking. 19 completions in a row at one point on San Fran's defense, throwing darts, breaking hearts, and scrambling. And could the Cincinnati Bengals be back after being buried by a paddle just 4 weeks ago? Meanwhile, the Niners, their fade in October continues after a paddle proclaimed them the #1 team in the power rankings just a couple of weeks ago. 3 straight losses, again, multiple second-half picks for Brock Purdy. The story for Purdy was whether he could even play 6 days after concussion. He was cleared by an independent neurologist, played well to start, then the picks, and then even worse, that hit had him holding his head very late in the game. Courtney Cronin, around the horn to you for starters on the game. Was this more about Cincinnati or San Francisco?
Tony, this is why we shouldn't have written off the Cincinnati Bengals early on this season. I certainly did not do it myself. If you go back to that week.
Check the tape, she says. Oh, okay. We'll check the tape.
We had to get to week 7 to see how he looked coming off of this bye week. And more than the 87.5 career high completion percentage in this game, more than the 19 consecutive throws that he made and completed to end the first half, and the 3 wins that the Cincinnati Bengals team has in a row, it's the deep ball that we're seeing from Joe Burrow that just wasn't there when he's trying to plant off of that calf and wasn't able to. Weeks 1 through 4, 29% completion percentage on throws of 10 plus yards, 61% weeks 5 through 8. He looked fantastic connecting with T. Higgins on that 3rd down play and seeing him scramble 43 yards on 6 different attempts. This shows you that Joe Burrow and that mobility that we had wondered where it had been all this time, it's back, and so are the Bengals.
Multitasking. I can do it all, Courtney Cronin. You're right. I'm checking the tape. As I have no volume on this right now, but I'm looking at the closed captioning, and you did not call Cincinnati dead. You did not say it was over. You can get those points back. Tim Kalishaw, was this more about the Bengals or the Niners yesterday?
Tony, I'm not here to look at tape or talk about tape. I'm here to be positive about the future, for one thing, okay? Let's start with that. And let's not discuss the fact I might have written the 49ers are unstoppable after they beat Dallas.
I do remember that.
Let's not focus there. Let's not focus there so much either. Let's look at what has happened to San Francisco. 370 yards last week by Kirk Cousins without Justin Jefferson against this defense. Yesterday, Burrow, 28 for 32. You can talk about Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams being out, and we can discuss whether Purdy is not 100%. That defense was very good for 5 games and had a weakness in the secondary that nobody could exploit, and now everybody is exploiting it, and now that team has just gone by the wayside. I'm interested to see how San Francisco recovers.
David Dennis Jr., your takeaway from how the Bengals beat San Francisco yesterday?
I'm with Courtney here. This is about a healthy Joe Burrow and what that bye week did. I mean, that team did win a couple games before that bye week. There's a lot of defense, but that offense was humming. That 87.5% completion rate, the highest against the San Francisco 49ers ever of all time. Best completion percentage that anybody's had against them. But what I think was most telling about his performance, besides that deep ball, was the fact that for the first 6 weeks of this season, he had 4 rushing first downs. He had 3 yesterday. And so that means that he is mobile again. You look at that play in the first quarter when they had him dead to rights. It looked like it might have been called down a couple times, or, it looked like he was sacked, and he was scrambling, he was moving. That's the Joe Burrow that leads the team to a Super Bowl. So that Joe Burrow, raises the ceiling of what we could possibly see for this Bengals team going forward.
And, Bill, are the Bengals back? And could the Niners be circling a drain here that's not an outcome they want?
Bengals feel back to me. This is not anything new for them. Before the bye, over the past couple of years, 13-11 after the bye, which they had last week. 13-3, including the win yesterday. I echo what Courtney said, what David said. This team looks so much better, healthier now, and we saw more explosive plays from them in this game. Just 8 explosive gains of 20 yards or more through the first 6 games. They had 6 against the Niners yesterday alone. Great work after the catch. More from the running game, which we haven't seen them get going so far this season, which helps with Joe Burrow working under center. And I think they were able to exploit a weak Niners secondary. So give credit to this offensive line that we've trashed for years, held up against Nick Bosa and that Niners front in this game. So full credit to the Bengals and major questions.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up then, Bill, on Purdy. How do you evaluate Purdy, both the play and the being cleared to play?
We don't know exactly what Brock Purdy's neurological situation is. We're not qualified to say that. But what I can say is this. Brock Purdy was not making these kinds of mistakes when it came to his ill-advised turnovers, ill-advised decisions late in games. That could be Trent Williams missing and hurting the offensive line. It could be a quarterback who hasn't had to throw from behind, making sort of desperate decisions to try and get his team back in the game. Or it could be the after effects of suffering a concussion 6 days ago.
Maybe we're figuring out Brock Purdy in these last couple of games, because when everything's perfect in the second half of games this season, when the team's ahead, he's thrown 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. When his team is either tied or trailing in the second half, 3 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 5 of those coming in the last 3 games. We know he didn't throw a lot of interceptions in his first 14. So maybe that clutch gene that we talk about with quarterbacks is something that he doesn't have right now.
We've been horned. We'll move on. Broncos 24, KC 9. Patrick Mahomes' worst game of his career. No touchdowns, 3 turnovers, playing with what is reported was flu-like symptoms. And that's how you have to say that, flu-like symptoms. But this Denver defense gave up 70 not too long ago, Tim. Does KC's touchdownless game mean something to you, or is it a write-off?
Oh, I don't think it can be a write-off. When they've played games like very hard for them to put up the points that we're used to seeing from
David Dennis Jr.?
This was a bad game where everything went poorly for the Chiefs, but their offense is prone to do this that we've seen this season. They've looked bad at different times in this season, and it goes back to that wide receiver core and those drop passes. We can talk about them being 0 for 3 in the red zone and some of these passes that they usually catch, but this is more than a trend. They lead the league in drop passes. They need better from that wide receiver core, because this Denver team, may I remind everybody, stinks. Defensively, they have been bad this season, the worst DVOA of all time for a very long time. So even if you play poorly, you should be able to beat this team. So you're looking at a season where you're going to be playing the best teams going down the stretch. You have to be able to execute and score these touchdowns and have your wide receivers catch the ball.
Barnwell?
I don't like disagreeing with the very wise David Dennis Jr., but I have to here. David, they did not have a good wide receiver core last year, and they still managed to go all the way and win a Super Bowl, which has to factor in for something, right? Like, I understand it does not look great at times this season. They were great last week on offense. I also want to point out, none of us are giving even the tiniest bit of credit to the Broncos defense, who hadn't just stopped the Chiefs once over the past 3 weeks. They've slowed them down twice. Everyone here got their jollies in, making fun of the Broncos when they give 70 points to the Dolphins. We at least owe them a tiny bit of an apology
Courtney
for what
Cronin,
they've done over the past 3 weeks.
Okay, you're never going to win games when you lose the turnover battle 5-1. That's the obvious point here. But to the point of this no-name receiving core, last year, this year, whatever year, it's the trade deadline tomorrow. You need to make a move.
Okay, here we
Brett
go.
Veach and the Kansas City Chiefs, go look across the aisle in the AFC West. Do we think that Denver's not going to be picking up the phone on Jerry Jeudy just because they won a game yesterday? They need to make some significant improvements. They need to make some significant improvements at the wide receiver position. They just were let down once again. Sky Moore, that drop on 4th and 2, which would have been a would-be touchdown.
Okay.
McCole
Give me a
Hardman
name,
on the muff
though,
punt, too.
and I can't imagine it to be a team in division. So give me a name they should be seeking here with 24 hours to go before the deadline.
Curtis Samuel. Darnell Mooney. We know that there were some other ones. Obviously, I think Marquise Brown might still be in the mix, but, I mean, there's not a bunch of great marquee names. They're not going to be going after
Bill,
DeAndre
any
Hopkins,
names?
I don't believe.
Any names?
I think Hollywood Brown's the guy. I think you need some speed. You need to have guys who can win against man coverage. I think Hollywood Brown makes sense.
One more story here. It's a record-tying NFL debut. Will Levis, 4 touchdown passes in his first start. And the Titans beating the Falcons. Bill, did the Titans just find their future?
They found their future for the rest of 2023. They have to play Will Levis, but this team was also ready to give up on the year. They just traded Kevin Byard, their starting safety, last week. You can't trade DeAndre Hopkins. You probably can't trade Derrick Henry now, given that you have Will Levis. So it might have been a Pyrrhic victory in some ways in the short term for Tennessee.
Corona?
Will Levis has more touchdowns in 29 attempts than Ryan Tannehill has in his last 218. The last time Ryan Tannehill had a 4-touchdown game was against Houston in 2021. So this performance, while we're going to be evaluating this on a short week with him coming up against a pretty good defense in the Steelers, I don't think we should expect this level of play to necessarily continue, but this could allow the Titans to explore a trade of Ryan Tannehill somewhere else, maybe Minnesota. There's a lot of quarterback carnage this week, and move forward with Will Levis as their
Tim
starter.
Kalishaw, a glimpse of the future.
Look at those throws, though. Those weren't cheap touchdown throws. Not a 5-yard toss. And those uniforms. That was vintage Dan Pastorini there.
There you go. Now you're speaking
all
old
over
man language.
the field. I want to see more of
David
Mr.
Dennis
Levis.
Jr.?
Let's shout out the genius of Will Levis, who realized if I throw the ball really, really far to DeAndre Hopkins, he could probably catch it. 3 touchdown passes of 30-plus air yards is the most that the Titans have had in forever. This is,
It's a beautiful ball, though, as we
I don't know
say.
how far they're going to go.
Although about the jerseys, everybody loves those jerseys. Whether that team can wear Oilers throwbacks or not is a debate, because they're not the Oilers. They're not even Houston. And then whether the NFL can tell the Houston Cougars they can't wear those jerseys. Look, that's the Houston Cougars there, honoring the Houston Oilers. And the NFL's trying to tell them they can't? Get out of here, no fun league. We'll be back. Buy or sell next. Reason to believe that could be possible with his 3rd start since injury and the way he's pitched in the postseason?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's reason to think that just because of the outings. But, I mean, we're talking about getting 4 or 5 innings.
Okay.
That's all.
But to answer the question I maybe hinted at first, would you rather have a future Hall of Famer throwing tonight in Game 3 or a rookie?
Tony, again, I'd like to look at the ending of Game 1 and see that ball going into the stand.
David Dennis Jr. on Game 3 tonight. What you buying, what you selling?
Reality is the phrase you used at the beginning of the segment, of late. And I know Scherzer has the Hall of Fame resume, but it is of late. Fott is 4-0 in this postseason, including huge games, Game 3 and Game 7 against the Phillies, eliminated the Dodgers. He has 2.7 ERA, 23 strikeouts, 3 walks. Fott has the edge here. I think the Diamondbacks look pretty good going to Game 3. I think they're going to win.
Bill Barnwell.
I don't buy this at all. Brandon Fott had an ERA near 6 during the regular season as a rookie. He was a sub-replacement pitcher. I know he's been good during the postseason, but that's just a couple of starts. Max Scherzer, even if he's not the guy he was a couple of years ago, is still a credible pitcher to get 4 or 5 innings in. And now that the Rangers have the Diamondbacks where they want them with 3 of the next 5 games on the road, I kind of feel like the Rangers are well positioned.
So you think that it will be a regression to what has happened for the chunk of Scherzer's career and, of course, the season that Fott had. Courtney Cronin, how about you? Would you rather have the Hall of Famer or the rookie?
I'll go with the hot hand. I'll go with Brandon Fott in this because when you take a look at all of these pressure-filled starts that he's had, that game against Milwaukee in the wild card round wasn't his best outing, but he limits the damage to 3 runs. Since then, in 14 innings, a 1.29 ERA. He hasn't recorded a no decision yet in the postseason, but this is a Diamondbacks team that was more or less 1 inning away from shutting out the Rangers in the first 2 games with a bullpen game coming up tomorrow in Game 4. This could be a turning point, so I'm going with the Diamondbacks in this one.
We'll move on. Buy or sell too. The mausoleum at the Meadowlands yesterday. Jets 13, Giants 10. Giants were 99.9% win probability with 1 yard needed to ice the game, but they tried that chip shot field goal and missed it. So too much time for Zach Wilson, and the Jets tied it on the last tick. Then in overtime, Brian Daboll's play calls with rookie quarterback Tommy DeVito screen. For his 3 quarters of action yesterday, DeVito -1 yard. Too much time again for Zach Wilson again. The pass interference offense. Yes, good choice, sir. And the Jets win. Bill, considering everything that went down in this game, what are you buying? What are you selling?
I'm selling that this is Brian Daboll's fault that the Giants lost this game. They had to hit a 35-yard chip shot to win this game and could not do it. They just had to stop Zach Wilson, who had gone 0 for 13 on the first 13 third downs in that game. Just stop them from getting 58 yards in 2 plays. And the defense couldn't do that. I like blaming coaches for stuff. This is not the time. The Giants did not execute when they just had to come up with one stop or one kick to win this game.
Courtney Cronin.
Look.
I'm selling this whole game. I want to refuse to talk about it in this very moment because it was such an eyesore. And I covered an eyesore last night. But this very, very game, Kayvon Thibodeau with the stat line that he finished with, the fact that this team couldn't contain Zach Wilson. Maybe the Jets have life. Maybe they don't. I don't want to talk about this game anymore. I want to never watch this tape ever again in my life.
Tim Calishow.
Tony, the over-under on this game was 34.5, the lowest in 13 years on a September or October game, and they didn't come close.
They almost made it in punts.
With 23 points. 24 punts. That's what this game was.
David Dennis Jr., do you blame Daboll for the 3 passes he threw with the backup quarterback in overtime, or the decision to kick the field goal even before that?
I'm blaming everybody for this calamity of a game. I'm selling the entire New York area. I'm selling Timberland, chopped cheese, everything. This is the worst performance of 2 New York entities since Lil Mama hopped on the stage.
This was Jersey, by the way. The game was in Jersey. The home of our Tommy DeVito, two-gun Tommy. Just got to get over. If we could just get him over.
The whole area.
0 yards passing. We got a shot here. Oh, my goodness. Calishow. David Dennis Jr.
The way Seager turned on that ball.
Cronin, Bardwell. Showdown next.
Please drink responsibly. Part of happy hour.
We've seen colleges get fined $100,000 for taking down goalposts. Kansas fans tearing it down and throwing them in the lake after beating Oklahoma. Was it worth it, Courtney?
No, because you could cut it up into pieces that you could sell to then pay for that $100,000 fine. I just want to know about the guy who jumped into the retention pond. Does he have meningitis now after that?
Oh, look at the scum on there. Very well struck. And how about you, Bill?
This team was 0-9 in 2020. I guarantee go back then, offer $100K for a win over Oklahoma. People are building the great goalpost reef in that liver whenever they want.
But, Courtney, you're right. Cut it up. You can make money out of it. There you go. Money on your mind. NBA in-season tournament, which has a catchy name, called the NBA in-season tournament. It will begin this week, and now the league has unveiled the courts for it today. Bill, how does that floor you?
This feels like something out of the crypto era in the NBA. It feels like someone paid too much money to make a big mistake. This is just an ugly addition.
Courtney Cronin?
I felt like Stephen Curry doing the Home Alone to Dylan Brooks when I saw all of these courts revealed. I don't know what that Indy logo is. I've never seen that before.
The Home Alone. Courtney Cronin, wire-to-wire win. 30 seconds to save time.
Shout out to Starkville High School's very own A.J. Brown, the first wide receiver in NFL history to have 125 receiving yards in 6 straight games. I covered him all the way back in high school, and seeing him now do this on the big stage for the Philadelphia Eagles, the best trade in franchise history.
Whoa, that's a hot take, too. I think they traded for Ron Jaworski at one point, but you covered him in high school. Check that tape. What did you say about him? You said he would be the best trade in Eagles history when he was in high school. Well done, Courtney Cronin. All right. That's it for today. Tomorrow, I believe we have a special edition of Around the Horn. Hornoween 2023. Here's the lineup. Woody Page, Clinton Yates, Israel Gutierrez, and George Sedano. But you'd have to tune in to see who shows up.
Hours of commercial-free football is coming right now.
Hornoween 2023. And I'm not sure I can turn around Tommy DeVito in time. I'm not sure I have the look for Jersey, for TD, Two Gun Tommy. Not sure. We'll see.